All right, we are going to get started. And I'd like to welcome you today to the Federal Job Results webinar on career transition. And tonight we're going to talk about networking and creating opportunities in different parts of your life, different areas of your life, and looking at the opportunities that might present themselves in a job fair setting or at some kind of hiring event. All right, so um, I am Corliss Jackson, and we have been around for about 18 years, and we do a lot of work around career transitions, both from the federal environment to the corporate sector and vice versa. And we're going to talk to you a little bit today about some of what we've learned and some of the best practices as you navigate through some of your transitions. So Wendy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Wendy Thompson, and I have been with Federal Job Results since 2016. And I used to be the director of the Career Center at the National Institutes of Health. So I'm really happy to be with you guys here tonight. And so in our last session, in our first session, we did kind of a broad overview of the job transition process that many of you might be facing. And we went over, kind of tried to touch on all the aspects of it. So first of all, managing your anxiety around that, the current state of hiring, assessing your situation, identifying target sectors and industries, employers and jobs, creating those marketing tools, your resume and LinkedIn profile. Tonight, we're going to focus on networking, as Corliss said. Then there's also preparing for interviews and sustaining your motivation. So before we get into the networking aspect, I just want to kind of re-emphasize some of the things that, of course, we need to talk about the practical aspects of moving forward, but we don't want to gloss over the fact that this is incredibly stressful for many of us. So the first priority that we really want you to remember, and we're going to keep bringing this up each time, is taking care of yourself. So that's number one. And that consists of focusing on what you can control by creating that action plan that's going to move you forward. Not doing this in isolation. So finding a job search partner or a career coach that can walk through this with you, or a group of people even. Staying informed, but not too overwhelmed by overloading your system. And just prioritizing your mental well-being, whatever that means for you. So we want you to keep that at the forefront. The other reminder that I want to give you before we get into the networking aspects is just that this can really kind of shake us, and we feel like we lose our footing a little bit, and like we might not have a lot to offer. We've been in one sector for a long time. What are we going to do to transition into a whole nother space that might be unfamiliar? Want you to remember that you have significant value. So your work, the work that you've done up until this point, matters, and you should be really proud of it. And your skills will translate and have enormous value in other environments. And your experience, all of the experience that you've obtained, makes you a very hireable candidate. So I want you to keep telling yourself that throughout this process as well. So networking, I just commend you all for being here tonight, because this can be a topic that many of us just go, oh, no way. So lots of times we feel that this gives us the feelings that we're vulnerable, or it feels awkward to put ourselves out there, or intimidating. It can also feel to some of us like it's pretentious or phony in some way. We might have thoughts like, will anyone anybody want to speak to me? What, what words do I use? What do I say? And what are they going to say? Um, I don't want to bother people or seem like I'm needy. And will this effort pay off in a job at all? And if so, when? So I just kind of encourage you to drop those things as much as you can, realizing that they're in there, but there's a way to switch our view of networking. And that is to look at it from a relationship building approach. So the truth is that if you're polite and genuine and upfront, many people are really going to be happy to help you. And people often like sharing their own experience and their career journey. So go with that knowledge. So first of all, think about shifting your mindset that this is a relational approach, not a transactional approach. So it means building long-term, mutually beneficial relationships, not that you're trying to get something from them. So if you can really kind of absorb that or internalize that you are going at this in a relationship building manner. And you also can look for ways to be of service to the people that you're connecting with. So this can be a two-way street. And there will be those opportunities if you're open to them. Then, so shifting your mindset and then shifting your energy too. So dig deep and go to that place of gratitude and curiosity about somebody else's journey and about the guidance they might have for you. And approaching every conversation as a chance to grow, because it really can be. So that's some of sort of the inner work that you can do to make networking seem less of a chore. And why do we even want to go there? Because it matters right now more than ever. 85% of jobs are filled by personal referral, and many companies prioritize referrals over online applications. If you're only applying blindly through job boards, not to say that they can't be valuable sometimes, but your chances of getting noticed are lower, especially with a really flooded job market. So connecting with people in your target companies, attending industry events, and joining relevant professional groups can really increase your chances of landing a role. Okay, so where do you even start with this? You want to start where you live. So cultivating your existing relationships. And lots of times we overlook all of this, but brainstorming actually a list of both close connections as well as what we call sometimes loose ties. So people you might know in some capacity, but you haven't interacted with them in a long time. And also remember that networking can occur at any place, anytime. So always consider where you might be at the grocery store, you might be at a social event. Don't limit your networking activity to professional meetings. But you're going to brainstorm this list of connections, and that can be family, friends, neighbors, people you know through community groups, past and present colleagues, former supervisors, alumni groups, through professional associations, and then your LinkedIn connections, where you can filter your connections by company and industry. And we're gonna get further into that in a little bit. But you're going to do just a really exhaustive list of everybody that you know, where they work, who they're connected to, and how that might align with what you're looking for.
Wendy, I just want
So
to interject here for a
yeah,
minute.
go ahead.
So two strategies that I just want to share with you. First, I call it 5 by 5 by 5. And it's a networking strategy that you can use that really can help you maintain that momentum that Wendy spoke about, because it can be difficult. And for a lot of us, especially if you're an introvert, it really can zap your energy in trying to kind of maintain the networking cadence, if you will. So 5 by 5 by 5 means that your goal is to reach out to 5 new people. And that could be in person, it could be online, it could be at the grocery store, but 5 new connections by 5 p.m. And that's 5 days a week. And that's going to grow your network by whatever 5 times 5 is, 25, I guess. But it's really going to help you kind of add up the number of people that you're connected with. And then you try to maintain those relationships over the course of your transition. And then, after you get to wherever your next destination is, you really want to maintain those connections so that the next time you have them at your fingertips. But it's 5 days a week, 5 new connections by 5 p.m.
Mhm.
The other technique I like to use also involves a 5, but it's a 5-0. And the list that, if you could just go back one slide, Wendy, please. The list that you have there at the bottom is really great. And what I would do is I would actually make a list of 50, just 1 through 50, and I would actually fill in names for those 50 people. So, family members, and you actually jot down all the names, people that you want to reach out to, um, friends, neighbors. Um, if you have children, or if you have kids in school, that's a great connection with sports teams and school events and all those kinds of things. But a lot of people will find that on that list of 50, you may not find a position or a job from that list of 50, but you may find somebody who knows of an opportunity on that list of 50. And a lot of people will find a really good connection within those 50. So look at 5 by 5 by 5 and try to kind of maintain that momentum. And then your top 50 list really should be something that you cultivate and something that you actually work through. And
Mhm.
I think we're going to talk a little bit later about, what to say and how to say it, but a simple email. Hey, how are you doing? How are the kids? Hope everybody's well. I just want to let you know that I'm in a job search mode. If you know of anything that might, fit the bill for X type of position, please let me know. Feel free to pass my resume on. Or, if you're not comfortable with that, say, hey, just reach out to me if you need my resume. But you want to make it easy to facilitate an invitation for the person that you're emailing, for them to present your information to the next person who they know. And, the goal is to have this cobweb of people who now have an idea that you are in a job search mode. Even though it's uncomfortable sometimes, come up with words that you're comfortable with, right? I'm in a job search mode. I'm transitioning right now. I'm looking
Mhm.
for, to land a new position. In the job hunt, whatever phrase or phraseology that you're comfortable with should be what you use, and practice it. Practice in front of a mirror what you're going to say to people when you're in the line at Costco, or you run into people at a baby shower or a wedding or some kind of event. Practice what you want to say and how you want to come across to them, and what types of skills you want to highlight. That's all.
I love that, Corliss. That's perfect because the 5 by 5 by 5 strategy gives you some structure around it and gives you a goal. And you might not make that every day, but if you have that intention, you're gonna, like you said, maintain that momentum. And that's what's really important. You actually should be spending the majority of your job search time should really be on networking and as opposed to the job boards. You can do both, but you definitely are going to get more bang for your buck if you are really cultivating these relationships.
Absolutely.
And with your top 50 working through those, that's definitely good to give yourself as a goal. Um, okay, so then, you know, back in the day, we always just talked about networking events, right? Like going in person to these networking events. And I think maybe that's where people kind of got a bad connotation around networking. But it's still important to think about those. So you can think of local events as well as virtual networking events. And here's just kind of a list to start with and to meet people in the private sector outside of federal. So Eventbrite and Meetup are two places for industry networking events in your city. They often have a happy hour panel or something like that that you could attend. Chamber of Commerce is another good place. Breakfasts, sometimes panels, social hours. Again, alumni networking events. So checking out your undergrad and grad school alumni associations. And then lots of business schools host just general networking events that include professionals from finance, tech, healthcare. So look around at business schools that might be near you to view possible networking events near you. And then moving to online events, LinkedIn, groups and events. Lots of companies and professional associations will host free webinars, networking, online events, and discussions. So joining targeted groups can help you connect with these events and with those professionals. So you've probably gathered, since we've thrown out LinkedIn a whole lot already, that it really is now a pretty essential networking tool for you to get familiar with and learn how to use it well. The basics, just want to run through again, that you want to have your profile that's complete and professional with a good photo. You don't have to pay a ton of money for it, but professional and you looking approachable and, and really drawing people in. Crafting a headline that clearly states what you do. Writing your about section that really tells your story, and having all your sections in your profile filled out, your experience, your skills, your recommendations, to everything that you can to boost your credibility. Then networking from there, connecting with like-minded professionals in your field. When you send connection requests, personalizing them, and people are more likely to accept them. So some of the language that Corliss was mentioning, like mentioning something you have in common, or complimenting a post that you saw from them, or something like that that you saw from their background that you could that resonates with you. So making that common connection to start with, and then asking them if they'd like to connect. And then engaging, which we're going to talk about a lot more, but posting relevant content that adds value for your audience. And you're going to start to think of it as developing your audience. So commenting on and sharing posts from your connections, so that gives them more exposure. And that's that reciprocal kind of relationship. And participating in conversations to demonstrate your expertise. So the whole thing with LinkedIn, a lot of people will say, I'm on it, but I just had never really found it that helpful. Well, the only way that it works for you is if you work it. So, you don't want to make this perfect, beautiful profile and then sit back and wait to be contacted. So you want to take the control yourself. Actively researching organizations, doing the work that you want to do, filtering it by the people within those organizations, and seeing some of them might be first, second, or third connections, or people with similar skills to you that are working in relevant fields. Once you've searched and found these new connections, you can reach out to them about their role, their career path, their company culture, any resource recommendations they might have, or other people that they can connect you to. So you want to think about, Corliss, do you want to say something?
Oh, I'm muted. Um, what if you wanted to do to start commenting and kind of becoming a thought leader? Do you have any tips for how that might
I
play?
think, yeah, I mean, that's just an excellent kind of like entryway into kind of picking something at an area of expertise that you have. Or if it's not an area of expertise, something that you really want to learn about that is relevant to your field that you want to continue working in. And, researching that, becoming an expert in that, and sharing that knowledge as you learn it. And you'll start to attract other people who are going to see that and comment on it, and building that cobweb, um, getting those connections out there. So, and establishing yourself as someone knowledgeable in that area, and a thought leader, and someone who wants to be active in that field. So definitely. So you want to think about your LinkedIn connections as potential allies and partners. Um, Most people, like we touched on before, love to talk about themselves, actually, share their stories and name drop other people they know. And that can all help you build your network. You can easily revisit connections later on. And you might not even know how you were initially connected, but you're going to start building those deeper trusted relationships through this. And if you are an introvert, LinkedIn's a great way to start because you can connect with people virtually first, without every interaction having to be in person or face to face. You can then even do like um, small little things like a text exchange counts, a LinkedIn messaging exchange counts, a phone conversation for 15 minutes counts. So, taking it in little bits to build your comfort level. Um, Remember when you are reaching out to new contacts, that relational, not transactional piece that we wanted to get in our mind. You're not asking for a job straight up. If you were, they might just point you straight to HR or a recruiter, or say, no, I don't know of any openings right now. Instead, you want to build these interactions, to get the relationships that may lead to a job eventually with these conversations. So, asking them to share their story and connect you with others who they think it might be great for you to talk to. People generally want to help you. And like Corla said, it's your job to make it really easy for them to do that. Okay. Anything else to add to that, Corliss?
I think, like you said, a lot of people, especially if you're moving from federal to corporate or private sector, um, LinkedIn isn't as important in getting a federal job. So it's a tool that you may not be familiar with, but you want to
Mhm.
get familiar with, as Wendy said, because it is, a lot of private sector companies will not even use paid recruiters any longer. They just use LinkedIn. So it's almost
Mhm.
like you have to have your head in the game and you have to be on LinkedIn to get noticed. And that's going to be one of the things that could really be instrumental rather than, uploading your information to a Monster or Indeed or something like that. It's really can be a game changer for you.
I can. And it seems a little daunting at first, but you really can get familiar with it. The more you use it, you'll figure out ways to filter and sort by groups and by people, by subject matter that you're interested in. And it's doable. It just takes a little devotion of time. So um So we want to touch a little bit on job fairs and hiring events, and are they worth your time? So the answer is yes. Um, First of all, we know the companies attending those usually are not going to be there unless they have open jobs. And second, when else do you have the chance to meet employers and other people face to face? So, it can be just a very direct way to, even if a job doesn't come out of it that day or following up, it can be a great way to network. So, but if you're going to go, you want to make the most of that time and not just kind of phone it in. You want to make the most of your time and do some serious preparation for it. So, um, preparing for, first of all, for in-person job fairs or hiring events, you want to find out in advance what companies or organizations are going to be there and research them ahead of time. So probably can't visit them all. So you want to prioritize visiting the ones that are good match for you. Go to their websites ahead of time and see what jobs they have posted. You do want to bring copies of your resume, and you do want to prepare and practice that 30-second elevator pitch where you're giving them a little bit about your background, your professional background, what strengths and skills you bring to the table, and why you would be interested in working for them. So really tailoring it to the people that you're talking to. Might spend a lot of time standing in line, especially right now with everybody attending. So use that time, you know, get off your phone and use that time to meet other job seekers and network with them. That's a great opportunity. And to get some of that community and some of that support from each other as well. Who knows, you might make a job search buddy just in that interaction. Um, you always want to have good questions that show them you've done your research, just like an interview, that you're ready to ask the recruiter at the table, leaving them with a positive, interested impression of you. You'll always want to ask them when and how you can follow up, what they would prefer, and then you want to do it for sure. So ask if you can stay in touch with them for possible future opportunities if there isn't anything that's a good match right at this moment. Um, just logistically, arriving at the career fair early while the recruiters are fresh and eager and interested is always a good idea. Business cards are still a thing. You can bring printed ones, or they have digital versions of your business cards now that you can share um, with each other to hand out either to those you meet while you're waiting in line or with recruiters. Keep your cell phone off, or at least turn your ringer off, and don't answer calls while you're in the job fair. Look like you're interested and engaged, and always look your best. Again, treat it like an interview and wear that kind of attire. And then now you might be seeing a lot of listings of online job fairs and think, well, how does that work at all? But they're getting pretty slick with how they manage them and set them up. So again, you're going to do all of the same things to prep to start with by researching the companies that have already said they're going to attend and be present, visiting their website, having your resume prepared to share, having your elevator pitch practiced and ready to go, having good questions ready, asking how you can follow up. Again, even getting to the online event earlier when it starts, when they're fresh, having your digital business cards to share. Even though it's online, again, treating it like an interview and wearing interview attire. But then with online job fairs or hiring events, you want to do, your due diligence with all those extra things. You're testing your technology, your audio, your video, your background, your lighting, and set that all up ahead of time so you come across prepared and professional, of course. And then the other thing that's tough for all of us over video is conveying that energy and enthusiasm and making a connection. Yeah. It's hard, right? It's hard when you're not in person. You don't It's hard to gauge other people's facial expressions and their body language as well. But you still want to have that intention and to try. So conveying some personality and smiling is more challenging on video, but you can still do your best to do that. And it's all
When,
about that connection. That piece is important.
and I just wanted to add, definitely, sometimes, and I don't know, um, if this will happen, but sometimes there's a lot of employers who are at a job fair. And one of my recommendations is that you maybe spend some time with like the top 5 or 10, because you may not be able to get to 150 employers in one, 3 hour sitting or 3 hour session. And so maybe looking at the employers, looking at everybody who's going to be there and prioritizing, and then kind of doing a deep dive into those companies or organizations that have the best fit for you, and in terms of their mission and your values and things like that. And then being able to find some things that you connect with, so that when you do talk to the recruiter, you can say something meaningful, instead of spreading yourself so thin that you've looked at 50 companies and you can't even remember who you researched, right? But really identifying the top 5 or 10 that might be a good fit.
Yeah, definitely make your top must see list and quality over quantity. Make those interactions really count. That's great advice. And so, again, we want to reiterate like sustaining our motivation. This all takes a lot of energy. The job search process can feel even more draining than a full time job because um, you're dealing with rejection a lot, you're putting yourself out there a lot. You have to be on a significant amount of time if you're interacting with people. Um, it's easy to get discouraged. Um, but with networking, you want to try to really track your progress, even keeping a spreadsheet of your networking activities and connections, giving yourself again a little structure around your process, a method to your madness. Here's the last time I spoke with this person. It would make sense and not be annoying if I followed up in this amount of time. Um, and keeping on top of that, because you never know, people are crazy busy and they might not have it at the top of their list to get back with you, but if you get back with them, they might say, oh my gosh, yeah, you know what, just this week found out something and I'm really glad you called.
Don't
So
Do not underestimate that, because sometimes I know, for me, somebody will tell me that they're looking for something. And then if I can't remember their name, or I can't remember their email address, or you know, how to get a hold of them, if I see that email back to my desk, or the phone call comes in, I can go, oh, I was just thinking about you. And I have, there's this opportunity I thought of. But if you're not in front of them and you don't follow up, and sometimes you can ask people, right? Like, so I'm in a job search mode. However, if you don't have anything now, and you can't think of anything now, may I call you in a week just to follow up? And people will say yes, and then it makes you feel more comfortable about doing that. Most people are not going to say no, don't call me. Most people will say yes. So you now have permission to give them a call. And oftentimes, I can't tell you the number of times that I've thought about connections I could make, but I couldn't get my hands on the contact information of that person. And so don't make yourself sparse. Make sure that you're, staying in contact with people an appropriate amount of time. But
mhm,
ask them if it's okay. And then you don't feel
mhm,
uncomfortable about actually following up with them.
right. And you can ask them how they prefer you to get in contact too. Do they prefer a phone call or an email or a text or a LinkedIn message? Like, what's their, what's make it easy for them, make it comfortable for them. Um, so staying in touch and then tweaking your approach, seeing what's working and what's not. Are you staying consistent through the week? Are you doing your 5 by 5 by 5 and just giving yourself a pep talk or getting in touch back in touch with that support network, other job seekers who can kind of give you that pep talk too and help you maintain your energy, or career coaching if you need some more structure around that. So I wanted to give you resources too about upcoming job fairs and hiring events. So these are just some different places to look for upcoming events, and they're posting a lot actually. So Maryland, Virginia, um, veterans associations, um, different community groups, for different populations. And then these are some ones that are coming up. There's one tomorrow, actually, Northern Virginia Career Fair. So different ones in different counties that you can check into and keep checking back on those sites to see when future opportunities are as well. And then this is another resource I just wanted to throw out there, that is part of Chat GPT, and you can might be wondering like how you can utilize or leverage AI or Chat GPT in your job search. And this is one way that I thought was kind of cool. This group, Federal to Industry, has different segments of it, and one of them is networking. And they'll sort of give you some prompts at how you can use that, like, or even language you can use. So, what should I say in a follow up message after a networking event? So, using that as a tool and then strategically tailoring it, personalizing it, customizing it for you, but helping to give you some language or some ideas about how you can respond is a good way to use it. Um, so I think, did we want to take any questions on the chat?
Sure. And I think we're going to use the Q&A function.
Okay.
So if at the bottom of your screen is a Q&A option, and you can keep that anonymous. And I don't think we have any questions right now. Let me see. Yep. So we can wait a couple minutes and see if there's any questions. But one of the things I just wanted to go back to, Wendy, is the 30-second elevator pitch.
Mhm.
And um, one of the things that I think is really important is that you practice what you're going to say. And we talked about some of the situations you might find yourself in. But one of the things that we like to tell our clients is to practice in front of a mirror so that you know what you look like when you're talking to other people. And practice with your cell phones, the recording feature, and listen to what you sound like. You're not going to like it first, I promise. But the good thing about it is you can delete it and do it over and do it over again. And you may tailor um your elevator pitch, and we call it a 30-second elevator pitch because it's supposed to be short. It's not a book or a novel. It's a 30-second quick hit in time, but you can tailor it to the situation that you're in. But you're always going to talk about yourself in a certain way. You're always going to talk about what um, drew you to that profession, or what makes you good at that profession or that type of work, and then what you're looking for. And you got to kind of leave it open and go for the ask, which is, do you know anybody in this field, or do you know anybody who might be looking for somebody who has these skills, or I'm in a job search mode right now, and I'd love it if you would share my information with somebody who might be looking for somebody who's in my field, or something like that. So you want to start off with telling folks about yourself, right? So I have X number of years in, you know, certain type of position. I'm really good at, or this is my niche, and you explain that. And then, I'm in a job search mode if you know of anybody who's looking for somebody in that particular field. So it's not it shouldn't be a heavy lift. It should come fairly natural to you, but it's something that you can use over coffees. If you're meeting with people, you can use your elevator pitch. On the phone when you're networking with people, if you're doing an informational interview where you're just gathering information, that's a time you can use it. You can use it when you are meeting with the recruiter at a job fair. You can use it when you just meet somebody in the grocery store. So it should be kind of your new mantra of how you want to kind of embark in this new phase of your life. You want to be very familiar with how you want to talk about yourself so that you're confident and that you exude that confidence, but also that you're comfortable in asking for what might be the next step, right? An introduction to somebody might be um, some information from somebody, but do you know anybody in this field who might be looking for somebody with my skill set? And you have to be okay with that. And the best way to do that is to practice. So,
Mhm. Yeah,
all
right.
right.
And also, if through this whole networking process, you might identify particular people who you really want to know a lot about their career journey. And if you cultivate that relationship, then you can approach them for that informational interview where you say, would you have, and lots of times people are calling them like a coffee chat or just a you know brief sort of um chat, or not necessarily an interview, but gathering information. And you're not asking them for a job or anything. You are getting their guidance about their field, or you're learning about how they got to where they are, what they think about their role, advice they would have for people who are interested in that role, and really making that the ask that you're doing there. Um, so you might start to identify particular people through your networking activities that you want to do that with, and really make that date with them.
Yeah,
I think
I
we
just
have
want to
one
talk.
question. Yeah.
Yep. So one of the questions is what explain the 5 by 5 by 5 again. So one of my favorite tools, it's 5 new contacts, 5 days a week by 5 p.m. And the by 5 p.m. is just to make sure it's like a work type of contact. But the 5 days a week, um, 5 new contacts, it's going to get you a good 20-25 people that you didn't know before, hopefully. And again, those contacts could be on LinkedIn. They could be, where you picked up the phone and you called somebody. It could be in person. But we're really looking for 5 new, fresh contacts because your goal is to expand your network. So 5 by 5 by 5 is 5 new contacts, 5 days a week by 5 p.m. So another question, generally for job search, is it better to do LinkedIn or to do some kind of job board like an Indeed? So, Wendy, I'm gonna let you take that one.
So, you know, I would say LinkedIn is going to get you more um, connections and relationships through that, and ultimately um, lead to more leads on jobs. So I would start with focusing most of your energy on LinkedIn, and recruiters are on LinkedIn as well. So if you set your profile up really well, they can find you. Also, that open to work banner that you can put on your profile, you can set that and just put it so that only recruiters can see that. So if you don't want to advertise that to the world, or have that label right there, you can select only visible to recruiters. So that's an option. So I would spend the majority of your time with LinkedIn, um, Indeed and job boards are, you can check them, but I wouldn't spend the most of your time there.
Good point. And
And then we have a
um,
question. Oh, go ahead.
oh no, I was just gonna say, so the um something to remember about your job search is that it's not about the quantity of applications. So it's not the number or the thousands of applications that you put out there. It's the intensity that you give to the quality of your contacts and your connections in the resume, right? So it's much better for you to tailor your resume, tighten it up, and send it to 10 prospects or 10 uh, networking contacts than it is for you to send out 1,000 resumes and don't have anything tailored in it and to send it to people you don't know. So it's quality over quantity, and it's always going to net you much better results because the job boards, the Indeeds, the Monsters, they're going to have, thousands of people's resumes in there all looking for one job. But if you find an individual who works at a company, you send your resume to them, they oftentimes will get a referral bonus. So they're looking for you to ask them because oftentimes they will get a referral bonus from the larger companies will pay a referral fee for them to bring in their friends and family who are um, good employees if they're a good employee. So that's another reason why it makes sense for you to network with people who are, already in certain organizations. But that the quality of that contact can be so much better than you just sending, your resume to some job board somewhere where nobody um, may never get to the bottom of that pile. All right, and then we have another question. The webinar from last week will actually be on our YouTube page. So it's the Fed Job Results YouTube page. Um, but the question is about the federal workforce with the hiring freeze, agencies hiring. So I'm gonna turn that over to you too, Wendy, if you don't mind. Um,
So, yeah. Um, so we are still under the hiring freeze. I don't have in my head exactly when the 90 days is up, but I think around mid-April. Um, and so a lot of positions are technically still frozen, but it's changing every day what that looks like. And really every hour. But are federal agencies still hiring at this time? They are. And so theoretically, all of the positions that are listed on USA Jobs are still open and available for you to apply. And we're going with the thought that they want to maintain those positions. So they're listed, but so they are still hiring. And we are still having people get interviews and things like that. So it is still active. It just kind of remains to be seen how it's all gonna shake out. Um, and the next question, can you still apply now or wait until the hiring freeze is over? You can apply for everything that's listed on USA Jobs right now. So it's open, that are open for applications. All the ones that are frozen were taken off of that website.
the other question, Wendy, oh, I just want to say something about the hiring freeze. A lot of the removals of individuals from their federal government jobs that was early in the new administration, they're being reversed now. So most agencies are inviting back the individuals who were terminated wrongly, I guess, that the courts decided. So that is something that is happening as we speak. So there's a lot of agencies are rehiring people that they've actually terminated. Um, Another question, Wendy, is about the best way to use groups on Indeed. And I'm not
Hmm.
super familiar with that feature, but I would steer you towards LinkedIn and networking, but if
Hmm.
you need to use, feel like you do need to use Indeed. I'm not familiar with groups on Indeed.
I'm actually not either. Uh, they, I'm sure they do have like a groups function, so I'm not sure what the best way to use that is on Indeed. And I would I would steer you towards LinkedIn too, and using the groups filter and function on there because it's gonna connect you better, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
and in case it's not apparent, we are not fans of the job boards, the monsters, the Indeeds. Um, it's very few and far between that folks get hired off
mhm,
off those kinds of platforms. So we prefer kind of the more in-person networking um,
mhm,
approach.
yeah.
So and
I mean,
then
there are like niche job boards that are, for certain professions, and smaller job boards. And I would say seek those out, rather than the great big universal ones.
so
Those are
example,
going to have
not,
fewer.
but
Hmm,
no, I was just going to say, like, for example,
Um,
for nonprofits, there's the nonprofit job board that I'm forgetting
yep.
the name, but but it's a job board that is specifically for nonprofits, and it's not as large and grandiose as like an
Right.
Indeed or
hmm
um,
And then
uh,
there's clearance jobs.
mhm.
That's one too, for if you have a security clearance, and then that's a great play. I've had clients who've found jobs on there as well.
And so so both of these webinars will be available on our YouTube page. So that's the Fed Job Results YouTube page. And the first webinar that we did last week before this particular session does have a list of those specialized job boards that we do recommend, and you
Yeah.
can listen to that. And we do offer individual coaching for individuals who are in transition. And we also have some availability for several free coaching sessions for those of you who are transitioning. So if you're interested in learning more a little bit about that, you can email us at info@fedjobresults.com. And we do work with you on interviewing, networking, your LinkedIn profile. We can help you with your resume, tailoring it, writing it, and just being there for you throughout the process from the beginning right straight through to salary negotiation for your next career move. So visit us on the web. We're also on LinkedIn, and we're pretty active on LinkedIn. So we have a lot of information and a lot of things that you can participate in there. We do posts there, and we also have a lot of connections. So we would encourage you to connect to us on LinkedIn so that we can stay in touch with you that way. We, oh, okay. If you have any questions that aren't answered, I'm sorry, there's an extra question, just questions that aren't we haven't answered. If you just email us at info@fedjobresults.com, we will be more than happy to answer those questions for you and chat with you a little bit about your search. So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate your time tonight, and we hope that the information we shared with you is valuable as you embark on your search. And if there's anything we can do to help you, please get in touch with us. Thank you.
Thanks for coming tonight, and take good care.
Mhm.